Good morning. Welcome to ASMR with the bear. I'm the bear. How you doing this morning? Hope you're all well. This morning, I want to ask you a question. Have you been to the movies lately? Well, I haven't been to the movies in probably 15 years. Because in all honesty, I can't imagine why anybody would go to the movies anymore. You pay an arm and a leg to get a ticket, and then you pay another arm and a leg for a soda and a popcorn. Why bother? You can wait a couple months and you can buy it, rent it, or watch it on Netflix. And speaking of movies, have any of you seen the movie The Women? I'm not talking about the 2008 remake. I'm talking about the original 1939 film from MGM called The Women. I haven't seen the 2008 version, and I'm not even interested in seeing it because I'm sure it's trash. It's probably filled with nothing but vulgar language and nudity. You know, those idiots in Hollywood anymore can't make a movie if it's not filled with sex, nudity, violence, car chases, explosions, and special effects. The story becomes secondary to other gratuitous things they throw in these movies. But anyway, the 1939 version of The Women is hilarious. It's an awesome movie. It really is. The 1939 version of The Women is an American comedy drama film directed by George Cukor. The film is based on Claire Booth Lucy's play of the same name and was adapted for the screen by Anita Loos and Jane Murfit, who had to make the film acceptable for the production code in order for it to be released. The film stars Norma Shearer, Joan Crawford, Rosalind Russell, Paulette Goddard, Joan Fontaine, Lucille Watson, Mary Bowen, and Virginia Gray, as well as Marjorie Main and Phyllis Pova, the last two of whom reprised their stage roles from the play. Florence Nash, Ruth Hussey, Virginia Wilder, Butterfly McQueen, and Hedda Hopper also appear in smaller roles. Fontaine was the last surviving actress with a credited role in the film, and she died in 2013. The film continued the play's all-female tradition. The entire cast of more than 130 speaking roles was female. Set in the glamorous Manhattan apartments of high society, and in Reno, where they obtained their divorces, it presents an acidic commentary on the pampered lives and powered struggles of various rich, bored wives and other women they come into contact with. Throughout The Women, not a single man is seen, although the males are much talked about, and the central theme is the women's relationships with them. Lesbianism is intimated in the portrayal of only one character, Nancy Blake. The attention to detail was such that even props such as portraits show only female figures, and several animals which appeared as pets were also female. The only exceptions are a poster drawing clearly of a bull in the fashion show segment and an ad on the back of a magazine Peggy reads at Mary's house before lunch. Filmed in black and white, it includes a 10-minute fashion parade filmed in Technicolor, featuring Adrian's most avant-garde designs. Often cut in modern screenings, it has been restored by Turner Classic Movies. On DVD, the original black and white fashion show, which is a different take, is also available. And the plot for The Women follows the lives of Manhattan women, focusing in particular on Mary Haynes, played by Norma Shearer, the cheerful, contented wife of Stephen and mother of little Mary. Virginia Wilder. After a bit of gossip flies around the salon these wealthy women visit, Mary's cousin Sylvia Fowler, played by Rosalind Russell, goes to a salon to get the newest exclusive nail color, Jungle Red. She learns from a manicurist that Mary's husband has been having an affair with a predatory perfume counter girl named Crystal Allen, played by Joan Crawford. A notorious gossip, Sylvia delights in sharing the news with Mary's friends. She sets Mary up with an appointment with the same manicurist so that she can hear the rumors about her husband's infidelity. While Mary's mother, played by Lucille Watson, urges her to ignore the gossip, Mary begins to have her own suspicions about her husband's increasingly frequent claims that he needs to work late. She decides to travel to Bermuda with her mother to think about the situation and hope the rumors will fade. Upon her return, Mary heads to a fashion show and learns that Crystal is in attendance, trying on clothes in an adjacent dressing room. Mary, at Sylvia's insistence, confronts her about the affair, but Crystal is completely unapologetic and slyly suggests that Mary keep the status quo unless she wants to lose Stephen in a divorce. Heartbroken and humiliated, Mary leaves quickly. The gossip continues, exacerbated by Sylvia and her friend Edith, played by Phyllis Pova, who turns the affair into a public scandal by recounting Sylvia's version of the story to a notorious gossip columnist. Mary chooses to divorce her husband despite his efforts to convince her to stay. As she is packing to leave for Reno, Mary explains the divorce to little Mary. On the train to Reno, where she will get her divorce, Mary meets several women with the same destination and purpose. The dramatic, extravagant Countess de Love, played by Mary Boland, Miriam Aarons, played by Paula Goddard, a tough cookie chorus girl, and to her surprise, her friend Peggy Day, played by Joan Fontaine, a shy young woman. Mary and her new friends settle in at Reno Ranch, where they get plenty of unsolicited advice from Lucy, played by Marjorie Main, the gruffly warm-hearted woman who runs the ranch. The Countess tells tales of her multiple husbands and seems to have found another prospect in a Reno cowboy named Buck Winston. Miriam reveals she's been having an affair with Sylvia Fowler's husband and plans to marry him. Peggy, who has discovered she is pregnant, is urged to call her husband, resolve their misunderstandings, and end the divorce proceedings. She succeeds. Sylvia arrives at the ranch now that her husband has requested a divorce. "Well, girls, move over," she says. When she discovers that Miriam is to become the new Mrs. Fowler, a catfight ensues. Mary succeeds in breaking up the fight. Miriam convinces her that she, too, should forget her pride, get her husband on the phone, and try to patch things up before their divorce becomes legal in a few hours. Before Mary can decide, the phone rings. The call is from Stephen, who informs her that he and Crystal have just been married. 2 years pass. At the Haynes apartment, Crystal, now Mrs. Haynes, is taking a bubble bath and talking on the phone to her lover, who turns out to be Buck Winston, now the husband of the Countess de Love and a successful radio star. Little Mary overhears the conversation before being shooed away by Crystal, who not surprisingly, has no time or patience for the child. Sylvia figures out with whom Crystal has been speaking and is having an affair. Still an unrelenting gossip, Sylvia tucks this information away for later use. Mary hosts a dinner for her Reno friends to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the Countess and Buck, after which the Countess, Miriam, and Peggy go to a nightclub and urge Mary to come along. Mary decides to stay at home. She chats with little Mary, who inadvertently reveals how unhappy Stephen is and mentions Crystal's lovey-dovey talk with Buck on the telephone. This news changes Mary's mind about the party. She gets dressed up, intent on fighting to get her ex back. I've had 2 years to grow claws, mother. Jungle Red. At the party, Mary worms the details of the affair out of Sylvia, then makes sure that a gossip columnist, played by real-life one named Hedda Hopper, is alerted to it. Mary tells the Countess that her husband Buck has been having an affair with Crystal, then informs Crystal that everyone knows what she's been doing. Crystal doesn't care and tells Mary she can have Stephen back, since she'll now have Buck to support her. The Countess reveals that she has been funding Buck's radio career, and that with Crystal he will be penniless and out of a job. Crystal resigns herself to the fact that she'll be heading back to the perfume counter, adding, "And by the way, there's a name for you ladies, but it isn't used in high society outside of a kennel." Mary, triumphant, heads out the door and up the stairs to win back Stephen, who is waiting for her. It's really an awesome movie. Norma Shearer plays Mary Haynes. Joan Crawford plays Crystal Allen. Rosalind Russell plays Sylvia Fowler. Mary Boland is the Countess de Love. Paulette Goddard is Miriam Ahrens. Phyllis Pova is Edith Potter. Joan Fontaine as Peggy Day. Virginia Wilder as Little Mary. Lucille Watson is Mrs. Moorhead, Mary Haynes' mother. Marjorie Main is Lucy. Virginia Gray as Pat, perfume counter girl. Ruth Hussey is Miss Watson. Hedda Hopper as Dolly Dipester. Florence Nash as Nancy Blake. Cora Witherspoon played Mrs. Van Adams. And etc., etc., etc. Like I said, I think it's an awesome movie, and the women speak so fast in this movie that you actually have to watch the movie a couple times to catch everything they say and to pick up on all the innuendo, since in 1939 they couldn't just come out and say things like bitch and stuff like that, and they couldn't come right out and they couldn't be graphic like they are in the movies today, so they danced around the issue. But it's an awesome movie. The Women has one color sequence by Technicolor, a scene during a fashion show. When interviewed by TCM host Robert Osborne, director George Cukor stated that he did not like the sequence and he wanted it removed from the film. The film was commercially successful and was cited as one of the best of the year. Although it received no Academy Award nominations, many critics now describe it as one of the major films of what was a stellar year in Hollywood film production. On review aggregate website Rotten Tomatoes, The Women holds a 90% fresh rating. According to MGM Records, the film earned $1,610,000 in the U.S. and Canada and $660,000 elsewhere, but because of its high production costs, ultimately incurred a loss of $262,000. Yet, they had a budget of $1,688,000 and a box office of $2,270,000. So I don't know how they ended up with a loss, but anyway. Now, compare this to the Women remake in 2008. The 2008 comedy film, The Women, written, produced, and directed by Diane English. The screenplay is an updated version of the George Cukor-directed 1939 film of the same name, based on a 1936 play by Claire Booth, Lucy. In the original film, most of the characters were Manhattan socialites whose primary interest was idle gossip. In the 2008 version, several of them work in the fields of fashion design and publishing, and the character of Alex Fisher is openly lesbian. A feature of the film shared with the 1939 version is that the movie does not show a single male actor or extra, with the exception of the baby at the very end of the film. See now, the 2008 version had a budget of $16 million and made a box office of $50 million. How times change. See now, in this version, clothing designer Mary Haynes lives in a beautiful suburban Connecticut home with her wealthy financier husband Stephen and their 11-year-old daughter Molly. Her best friend since college, who was her cousin in the original movie, is the editor of a prominent fashion magazine that dictates the latest in taste and style for New York City fashionistas. When Sylvia learns Stephen is involved with Crystal Allen, a perfume salesgirl at Saks Fifth Avenue, from chatty manicurist Tanya, she confides in the ever-pregnant Edie Cohen, but hesitates to tell Mary, who discovers the news from the same woman after getting a manicure herself. Despite her mother Catherine's exhortations to keep quiet about what she knows, and a holiday away, Mary confronts Crystal in a lingerie store, and then Stephen before asking for a divorce. Sylvie, Edie, and writer Alex Fisher join forces to support their spurned friend, but complications arise when Sylvie, facing the loss of her job, conspires with local gossip columnist Bailey Smith by confirming Mary's marital woes in exchange for Bailey's contributing a celebrity profile to the magazine. Mary is stunned by Sylvie's betrayal and ends their friendship. Mary's daughter begins to ditch school and confides in Sylvie because her mother, distracted by the upheavals in her once idyllic life, becomes more distant. Mary is fired from her job by her father, has a makeover, and decides to open her own clothing design firm with some financial assistance from Catherine. As she begins to get her life in order, she makes an effort to bond with Molly, who reveals her father's relationship with Crystal is unraveling and reunites with Sylvie, who has quit her job. With this knowledge in hand, Mary sets out to repair her fractured marriage as she prepares to unveil her new line of women's wear in a fashion show attended not only by boutique owners but the buyers from Saks as well. Sylvie tells Mary that she has met a guy and is thinking of giving him her real phone number. In the final scene, Edie's water breaks and she has a baby boy. Whilst Edie is in labor, Mary receives a call from her husband and is encouraged by the others to answer it. She then arranges a date with him. After the ending credits, we see that a magazine titled Sylvie is published with the four friends on the cover, and Alex's book is out in print. A hint is given about Crystal's possibly going out with Alex's ex-girlfriend, Natasha. The women talk about the movie, the magazine, the book, and the joys, heartaches, and uniquely special triumphs of being a woman. Yuck. That doesn't even sound good, and it strays way too far from the original. Anyway, if you ever get a chance to rent it, buy it, or watch it on Netflix, I give the 1939 version of The Women 2 thumbs up. Well, I'm going to call it quits for the evening and going to turn in as it's 2 a.m. here. You all have a safe and pleasant evening. Thanks for watching. Take care. Good night.